Blimey, this is exciting. It really is, you know. New figures show that UK economic growth is... Oh, hang on just a second. Oh, bugger. Weaker than first thought. Blimey. But why ain't I surprised? Hey, well, yeah, please boot the old like button. Helps the channel, you know. So, yes, the UK economy continued its recovery, apparently. Yeah, from a so-called recession, you know, a technical recession at the end of last year. Well, I remember house prices growth. Well, they were around 15-16%. And then 2 years ago, they flatlined. Now, house prices are, well, they're quite a good way of actually judging the state of the economy, because people move or they buy bigger houses and what have you, because they've got the money in their pocket to do so, or they've got enough residual income to get a whopping great mortgage. But although house prices have, well, they've gone up a little bit since 2 years ago, but only by 3.2%, unfortunately. So, yeah, the growth across the UK economy was weaker than previously thought over the spring. Now, originally they were saying 0.6% April to June. And that's now been revised down to 0.5%. Don't sound like a lot. But when you talk about GDP, around 2.7 trillion, well then, clearly that's a huge amount of money. And it affects tax take. Now, the only thing I would say here, I would also say, is that the GDP is a real messy way of calibrating a country's value, economic value. Obviously not, you know, as in assets and stuff like that, but just the amount of take, how much money that the country actually brings in, you know, gross domestic product. It's a really clumsy way of doing it, because, you know, when you get your pay packet and you get your gross income at the top there, and then you'll get your costs, or you get your deductions such as your taxes, your national insurance, etc. And then you get your net. Well, the net is where the money is. You see, all those other expenditures, in the case of a profit and loss for a business, for instance, some of those expenditure to create the profit, the net, would have been stuff bought abroad, imported. So some of that money is going abroad. So it's not actually going into the country. Now, when you've got all this expenditure, there's less tax take. And when you consider everything's become more expensive now to import, because of the B word, because of Brexit, red tape, which many businesses in the EU have decided that, well, it's not worth it anymore. They're exporting stuff into the UK. Now, well, that's in both directions, to be fair. We're not selling as much abroad either, because what we've done is we've priced ourselves out of the market. It's become too expensive. So business to customer model, well, that's pretty much wiped out. Business to business, well, that is still happening, because you can control your stock that way. And many businesses in the UK have decided to actually export larger quantities into storage at a cost into the EU at a much less profit margin, and then deliver directly from their storage, their warehousing. Nothing straightforward anymore like it was before. And as soon as you put any kind of anomaly in the way, everything becomes more expensive. Hence, less net value in our GDP. It's considerably affected by the additional costs imposed by Brexit. Now, while we've got some form of memorandum of understanding regarding the services sector in the UK with the EU, we're managing to trade to some degree. services in the EU on a limited basis. But you see, there's no future in that. Because everything has a finite, it has an end time. It's finite. So at some point it's going to be renegotiated, and then renegotiated, and renegotiated. And there is a possibility that negotiations will break down and there'll be no memorandum of understanding, and that will affect our services industry with the EU. 27 odd member states. Well, the whole economic area. Which is considerable. It's the second largest, it's the largest trading bloc, but its GDP of the EU is around 16 trillion. The United States is around 23 trillion. Actually, I think theirs has actually gone up, actually. But you see, it's all very well people to tell us that, the GDP has gone up, there's growth, which is tiny anyway. But it's actually a lot less than it's ever been before, because there's no profit in it. And if there's no profit in it, you pay, you pay your taxes on the net profit after all your expenditure. So there's less tax take in the UK. Now, according to this, growth in manufacturing sector is flatlined. There's no growth in manufacturing, whereas there was before Brexit. There's zero growth. They say it's been dragging its heels. Now, a technical recession, like they said we had before, was defined by 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. Now, the GDP increased by 0.7% over the first quarter between January and March, but now it's gone down. It's a diabolical mess. It really is. It looks absolutely chronic. Now, some of this additional cost is going to be down to the fact that we can't get labour like we did before, and there's all very well said, wages have gone up, but so has the product cost, which then affects the business. Businesses are actually going under because they can't afford to pay their employees. If you've got no room to, you've got no room to move within your cash flow, well, you're no longer legal to trade. If you're a limited company, you have to have liquidity. You've got to have enough money coming in to cover your costs, or to have some form of loan agreement with a bank to be able to cover those costs. You've got to have enough equity in the stuff that you own, your vehicles, your properties and stuff like that. Otherwise, you're effectively bankrupt. And there is clauses in the Companies House. I've done it several times. So in the Companies House legislation, when you apply for a limited company, you must. You've got to have liquidity. You can't. No, it's illegal. You can get disbarred. Well, not disbarred, You can be prevented from being a director again if you break the rules. Surprising how some people become a director again, like Nigel Farage again and again and again and again. But there you go. It just frustrates me that we get told all this stuff and we don't get told the detail. We don't get told what's really happening and the actual real state of the economy in the United Kingdom. You've only got to look at the national debt, and it's growing rapidly at the moment. Let's have a look what the national debt is at the moment. I should have done it before I started, shouldn't I? Yeah, UK national debt. Yeah, it is currently around 2.7 trillion, which is the same as our GDP. Now, I don't mean to say, we just got to work a year, right, and then we can pay off our national debt. No, because that's the GDP, that's gross. That's not the profit margin, is it? So anyway, what do you reckon? Do you think we're in a bit of a state? Because I think we blooming well are, quite frankly. And we're not going to pull ourselves out of this anytime soon, because what we've done is we've curbed ourselves from earning money. Top block, that's what it is. You know, it's become very, very difficult to trade with the European Union, if not, not impossible, but it's difficult and expensive. News legislation in the UK that's coming into force, and has already come into force, also applies to all third countries, which increases costs of imports. And lots of goods are coming from further afield, foodstuffs, what have you. And we're allowing the importation of foodstuffs with pesticides on because we've lowered our standards in the UK, which the standards were supposed to go up, weren't they? But no, they've gone down. So we've got to open hell. We can't export our stuff into the EU. They say, no, thank you. We don't want it. Can't trust it anymore. It's just madness. I find it actually really frustrating. All you hear is the same old bloomin' Chancellor. Well, at the moment we've got this leadership contest with the Conservatives, and all they're going on about is flipping immigration, and the public actually don't care that much about that. Such a minority. People are all worried about being able to pay their bills and worrying about keeping warm this winter. So it's no wonder that Rachel Reeves is having to, take money away from you, such as the winter fuel allowance and what have you. And now she's going back on the non-dom status, which is debatable whether or not it actually provide much income, what have you. Maybe they should get rid of the asset holding companies so we can have a tax take on foreigners investing in the UK. Currently, they can just put it into asset holding companies and it's ring fenced. They don't have to pay anything. That was Boris Johnson. Cameron got rid of it. Just like he did with the free ports. He got rid of it. Now we've got these flipping new things like in Teesside, old steelworks, what have you, is now it's turning into a mega city. Special economic zone, they call it, which gives them the right to buy up any land for £1. That's what's been negotiated. This is just theft. Theft of national assets. It's just wrong. And I would have hoped that Labour would have done something about it, but no. Labour decided that, turn a deaf ear. Maybe they don't know. I can't see that. No, not for a second. It's bloody stupid. The whole thing is flipping stupid. So you probably tell I'm very disappointed with Labour at the moment. I was more disappointed with the Conservatives. I do feel that Labour got in because they weren't the Conservatives. People hoping for something different, but currently it just seems like much of the same. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, if you feel this comment, hit the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel. I'm just going to bury my head in some boiling water or something. Toodaloo, got boil my head.